Hi guys. Hi Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray and you're watching Mixtress video. I wanted to do like a quick live video, but it seems like I don't know. I've only done a live video once, and when I tried to do it just now, my phone was like, you must grant access to your location in order to do a live video, and I was like, why? So because I just wanted to do this really quickly, I just decided to bypass that, and so this is not a live. You guys don't care. So I just wanted to express some very quick thoughts. I have had this deck in my hands for not very long, 4, 5, 6 days max, and oh, I've got dust on the box already. So I have both the deck and the book that comes separately. So I just want to, first of all, I want to say before, I'm just kind of expressing, I'm still kind of getting to know this deck, but I'm just kind of expressing sort of my, not my first impressions, but kind of my second impressions, but not my final impressions, you know what I'm saying? Not my final review, but I just, as I'm starting to be able to articulate how I feel, I wanted to kind of express that with you guys and see if anybody agrees with me. So let me know. Let me know your responses to my opinions, whether they be agreements or not, you know? Agreements or disagreements, I welcome both. As long as it's done with kindness, of course. So, what I am recognizing, first of all, disclaimer, none of this is against Yoshi Yoshitani at all. I think she made a beautiful, well-researched, diverse deck that's very faithful to the source material of fairy tales, myths, and divine stories from around the world. The problem with that I am finding is that I went through today, I have not read all of the stories in the book, but I went through today and just like, basically I just flipped through the deck and I looked up each card and I read, because even in just the little book that comes with the deck, you get a little paragraph. Sometimes it only refers to the meaning of the card, but most of the time it will give you a general overview of, not only do you get the name of the person in the card and where it's from and what it is. So this is from Russia and it's a Russian fairy tale. But you also get, I think this is very thorough. In retrospect, I likely would not have personally needed to have this book, although the book tells you a lot more. This is all in the, pretty much. The book tells you a lot more, tells you like a much more thorough explanation of the story. One critique that I have for the book is that it's not, I would have preferred, since it doesn't seem to be in a particular order, maybe it is in an order that I just am not picking up on, but it doesn't seem to be in any particular order, so I kind of wish that the book would have been in the tarot card order, because basically you have to know, okay, this is from the Snow Queen, so you have to know that, and then you go back to the index and find Snow Queen, page 53. So that's what you have to do, essentially. And you can pick up from context, like, okay, there are 6 cups here, and that looks like a 6 of cups. But it just takes a little bit more work if you want to refer directly from the tarot deck to the book, which I know a lot of people bought both. Yeah, anyway. So that's just a minor critique, and it doesn't refer to which card it is. There's plenty of space. You know, they could have had it here. You know, Boy and the Dragon Pearl, China, Chinese legend. They could have had in parentheses, this is the King of Cups. Because she does mention in the introduction that these images and fairy tales correspond to her Tarot of the Divine. So she could have mentioned that here. And since it doesn't seem to be in a particular order anyway, it would have made sense to put the book in the order of the tarot, so that you could much more easily refer to each legend. So there's that. That's my critique of the book. My critique with the deck in general. Again, this is nothing against her gorgeous art, her diversity, her intense research. I really love this card, actually. Her intense research of all of the mythology and everything. Like, she wrote a whole fucking book on it. So this is nothing against her, but just, this is like a visceral reaction that I'm having. Like, for example, this Nine of Cups. I looked it up today. And the story represents a happy ending achieved in unexpected ways. Prince Taj al-Muluk fell in love with Princess Dunya, but she refused men. He used trickery, disguising himself as a woman in order to win her heart. So this is like Nine of Cups being interpreted as... First of all, I want to say, before I start going in on my critiques, Yoshi Yoshitani did an amazing job with finding a good legend to match each of the stories in a tarot deck. She did an amazing job. But my problem is knowing the legends behind, and this was just what was in the tarot book, so I would have known this even if I hadn't bought this book. Knowing the legends behind a lot of these cards. Like, for example, Nine of Cups is supposed to be about getting everything you want in life and being extremely fulfilled and happy and self-satisfaction. And maybe they are right for each other, but the relationship began by him tricking her. And that bothers me. And that is a good example, just that one being on top, of a lot of the cards in this deck. And because, and this is also not Yoshi Yoshitani's fault, because all of these legends, the majority of them, hashtag not all legends, but the majority of these legends are coming from a place of women not having agency over their own storylines. Like this in particular, like if you watch my initial flip through of the deck, I did read the story from this book, and I was very disappointed. Initially looking at this image, I am so happy. I'm so happy with this image. But looking at the actual legend that's associated with this taints my view of this card. So, first of all, I think it's totally the right thing to do, to have all of this material to work with, to really study this deck. And I think that this deck is going to be, I think I'll probably be an anomaly with my particular opinions on it. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I want this deck to do well. It's diverse, it's beautiful, it's well thought out, it's well researched. The only downside is just my visceral emotional responses to the legends that are associated with what's being depicted on the card. So for me personally, first of all, I love this Rainbow Crow. That's not one of the ones that bothers me. But for me personally, like, if I'm going to do a spread from this deck, so let's just, you know, let's just pull a few cards so I can kind of show you. First of all, I love the linen cardstock. Listen to this. I'm going to shuffle it, guys. I'm going to shuffle in the ones I've already flipped through, too. It is so fun to shuffle. Shuffles very well. Listen to this. Oh, yeah. It bends and really holds the bend, but if you do that bridge shuffling like I just did, if you riffle it and then bend it back to bridge it, see, it kind of gets bent, but then when you do this, it bends it back. So, okay. So let's just lay out some cards here. So for me, it's distracting because you're clearly seeing when you pull a spread with this deck, you're clearly seeing each card is drawing you into that particular legend. So it's hard to see a spread as a whole And for me personally, having the story behind, knowing the legends, learning more about the legends associated with each card, I have biases towards the stories. And that's my own fucking problem. But, for example, let me read you from the guidebook what it says about the Hierophant, which is White Buffalo Woman. Okay. North Dakota, she's a Lakota deity. Hierophant is a divine figure and teacher who shares the rules, rites, and rituals to follow as a community. There is a place for everyone and everyone in their place. She encourages the comfort and support of the group, the path well trodden. I kind of see issue with that. That's a good interpretation for Hierophant. Hierophant. What? I just don't know how to pronounce that word anymore. That's a good explanation for this card, but just as a card in the tarot. But putting that on White Buffalo Woman, like, is that really her story? That she wants people to follow only the well-worn path? I don't know. It makes me lose a little respect for her if that's how she feels. You know? And it's just that kind of, like, minutia is distracting me with this deck. I'm just gonna, I don't know what else I have to say, except that for me personally, I don't know, I'm not ready to let it go. Like, I'm not saying absolutely no, but like, oh, here's a good example. So this chick, let me look her up just so La Llorona, and I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's L-L-O-R-O-N-A, from Mexico, Mexican folklore. The Five of Cups is useless regret without learning. Jealous of her husband's new wife, La Llorona drowns her own children, and now her wailing ghost wanders the earth. She continues to wallow in grief, refusing to seek redemption or happiness. Like, fuck! You know, there's no hope in that. And almost every story that has a woman, like this chick she's like searching the earth and going through many trials and tribulations to find her husband, I think. So she's built this ladder to get to him out of bones that were given to her. And then at the very end, she doesn't have the very last bone she needs. She has to use her own pinky bone. She has to cut off her pinky to get to him. And it's just... Okay, why am I flipping these? I don't need to flip them. Okay. I like this a lot. I mean, and I love the Empress being Lady of Guadalupe. There's a lot to love about this deck. There's a lot to love about this deck. This one in particular, just wanted to mention really quick. This is Moses. This is supposed to be like Moses choosing a life of spirituality instead of like all of the riches that he was born into. And this reminds me of the story of Siddhartha Buddha as well. So that's an interesting perspective. Don't get me started on, like, I think Buddha's an asshole for leaving his family. That's how I feel about that. It's just, this deck is faithful to the actual legends, and I think that that is commendable, and I am so happy that this deck exists in the world. I don't really have unkind things to say about it. It's just, for me personally, it just highlights for me how sexist our society has been all over the world for millennia. You know, it's like this. I think of Isis as a very empowering figure. And this is obviously, it's a portrait of a bad moment for her. But, like, let me read that too. This is a portrait of a bad moment. And she will later overcome this situation. So this is her in a moment where, before she has overcome. So that's a, you know, that helps my interpretation of it, actually. I'm already talking myself into feeling better about this one. But it sucks that, like, when the only time we see Isis in this deck is when she's being defeated by a man, you know? And it just, I guess it's just that fairy tales and mythology and folklore in general is just tragic. It's tragic. And seeing it through this lens of like, maybe it's just too harsh of a truth for me at the moment. Like, I feel like this deck has something to teach me, but I'm not right now in year of the pandemic. Oh, like this one. Okay. Right now, year of the pandemic, I just don't want to do it, you know? Like this one, 4 of Coins. This is, she's not in love with her husband, but he has trapped her. He doesn't care that she doesn't love him, and he has trapped her. And that's what this is. And it's just, I think it's just, I know it's supposed to be like fairy tales and mythology. These aren't like fucking true stories. But it's just bringing me down, you know? And I don't, oh God, I kind of feel conflicted about even like putting this out there, because I don't want to say anything against, okay, here's a good example of one that like is better. This Sleeping Beauty, I like the description in the guidebook. Okay, so it says it's an Italian fairy tale. The hanged man seizes forward momentum to avoid disaster and instead favors reflection. Sleeping Beauty is a symbol of stasis. With the options of sleep or death, she chooses to wait for more favorable conditions. So this puts agency back onto her. So this is an example of how these legends could have been seen through a different view. So maybe my challenge with this deck is to find a way to reinterpret these legends in a way that gives more agency to the women. So like this. Oh, fuck. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just like having a very emotional response to this deck, which probably is an indicator that we're eventually going to have a really intense and beneficial relationship. Most likely, that's what this is an indicator of, but right now, I'm just feeling very betrayed by this deck. Okay, so this Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords represents backstabbing and betrayal. This is the story of Sedna from Canada, Inuit mythology. Sedna's father pushes her from his kayak and chops off her fingers when she tries to cling to his boat. She sinks to the bottom of the ocean and becomes consumed with wrath, eternally seeking revenge. So this has no hope in it. There's no lens with which to view this as coming back. Like, I need a Ten of Swords that has some hope that you can stand up from. She's not standing up from that just based on that story. This is gorgeous. So gorgeous. Anyway, I was wondering if any of y'all were having like similar thoughts with this deck. Like, it's so well done. The fact that it can evoke this kind of emotional response in me, and I can still just like respect it so much for what it is. Like, I love that these ropes look kind of like a brain. It's a great Ace of Swords. I even like that this is like the fairy godmother of Cinderella for the magician, because she can transform objects. You know, she's definitely a magician. Like, there's so much to love about this deck, and I'm not trying to speak out against it in any way. I'm just having some problems with it, and I was just kind of wondering if any of y'all have the same reaction. Let's end on a good note, though. I have been wanting to read about this one, so I'm gonna look it up okay, so 9 of Wands means I need to look it up here. This is Vasilisa the Beautiful. So let me look her up. Oh my god, I just opened right to it. Never mind, I don't have to look it up. Okay. A merchant and his wife had a sweet and kind daughter known as Vasilisa the Beautiful. When Vasilisa was still young, her mother died. On her deathbed, she gave her daughters a small wooden doll and told her to give the doll a little to drink and a little to eat, and the doll would comfort her. When her mother died, the girl did just that and felt soothed by the doll's presence. Time passed, and the merchant married a woman with 2 daughters. The stepmother was jealous that Vasilisa was preferred by the young men over her own daughters. Snow White vibes? So the stepmother set out to be rid of her. When the merchant left on a long trip, Vasilisa's stepmother moved the 4 of them to a gloomy hut in the forest. She then put out all the fires in the house and bade Vasilisa go fetch light from her neighbor, Baba Yaga. Gaining comfort from her doll, Vasilisa traveled the dark woods to Baba Yaga's home, a house on chicken legs and surrounded by a fence topped with human skulls full of light. As a terrified Vasilisa waited outside the fence, a rider dressed all in white rode past on a white horse, then a red rider, then a black rider. Finally, the old crone, Baba Yaga herself, rode up in her mortar. Baba Yaga agreed to give Vasilisa fire, but only if she completed some impossible tasks. If Vasilisa couldn't complete them, she would be killed. Vasilisa began to fret. I feel like it just sounds weird. Vasilisa. 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 There's got to be a better way to say it so it doesn't sound so ugly. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being prejudiced against against Russia. I don't know. Vasilisa began to fret as she attempted the tasks, for she was unable to separate poppy seeds from a pile of dirt, or rotten corn from good corn in a single day. But when all hope seemed lost, her little doll told Vasilisa to sleep, for she would do all the work. When a surprised Baba Yaga asked how Vasilisa was able to complete the task, the girl explained that she was blessed by her mother. Horrified, Baba Yaga told Vasilisa she wanted nothing to do with blessed people. She kicked Vasilisa out of her house, sending her home with a skull lantern full of burning coals. When Vasilisa arrived back at the hut, the skull magically burned her stepmother and stepsisters to ashes. Okay. I don't know how to take that story. I don't know how to synthesize. Maybe it's just my own problem with storytelling. Like, I have some sort of, I don't know how to integrate that. I don't know how to integrate that story into this. I'm finding that for me personally, I don't want this book. And that's sad. That's sad. I might just return it because I did get it from Amazon, so it'd be easy to return. Because, okay, that's a good like example of, okay, what is this? Knight of Wands. So here's what the guidebook says that comes with the deck. The Knight of Wands represents weathering the battle. Sent by her wicked stepmother to the door of the witch Baba Yaga, Vasilisa the Beautiful stays resilient. She endures Baba Yaga's impossible trials. She is wary and cautious, but also hopeful. See, that to me, since it's not the full story, that to me is much more hopeful. This almost describes to me more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? More of a cooperative relationship. Like maybe she went to Baba Yaga, maybe her stepmother sent her to her to get some answers for something. And then she had to withstand all of these trials. And I see these wands with the flaming skulls, which I think is a beautiful image. Oh my God, this image is gorgeous. I see her having to overcome all 9 of those things in order to get to the conversation that she needs to have with Baba Yaga. And because she withstood all those trials, she gains Baba Yaga's respect and she gives her the wisdom that she needs. See, that's what I take from what is said in the guidebook. But then you see that that is not at all what the fucking story is if you read this book. So, for me personally, I think I just don't need this book. Thank you. Okay, so me apparently making this video was just so that I could get to that conclusion. I think that's what's right for me, because every time I consult this damn book, if I consult this damn book, I'm usually pretty hopeful with what I can take from the more simple explanation. But getting the more detailed explanation usually upsets me. So, okay. I don't know what the purpose is of this video except to just say, hey, I'm having some complicated feelings about this deck. This beautiful, wonderful, well thought out deck. So let me know you guys' thoughts if you have any. Okay, bye.